Axel, please check your microphone. Some people are reporting they cannot hear you.
Hi, and welcome to the virtual opening of ceremony of International Education Week, UNE 2024. My name is Axel Yañez, and I am delighted to be your host for today's event. Whether you're tuning in from Mexico or halfway across the globe, your presence is what makes this week truly international and meaningful. This year, we gathered virtually to explore the latest trends, insights, and opportunities in global education. Although we may be miles away, technology brings us closer together to connect, collaborate, and celebrate our shared commitment to fostering cross-cultural understanding. To officially kick off International Education Week, UNE 2024, I am thrilled to introduce Alicia Ivette Sierra Sosa, Director of Academic Leadership at Universidad del Noreste, for the welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Axel. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever you are, distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and friends from around the world. On behalf of Universidad del Noreste, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you to International Week UNE 2024. This week-long celebration remarks a significant moment for our university as we come together to embrace the transformative power of global learning, cross-cultural understanding, and international collaboration. As part of the global initiative spread ahead by the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education, International Week underscores the vital role education plays in building bridges between nations and shaping a more inclusive, connected, and empathetic world. Here at UNE, we are proud to join this effort by hosting a platform where diverse perspectives converge, ideas flourish, and meaningful connections are forged. The theme of this year's celebration focuses on exploring the latest trends, insights, and opportunities in international education, and our agenda is brimming with exciting discussions, workshops, and presentations that promise to inspire and empower. Whatever you are, a educator, an eager student, or a professional seeking to broaden our horizons, this week offers a unique opportunity to deepen your understanding of the world around you. Let us use this moment not only to share knowledge, but to listen, learn, and grow from one another. I encourage you to actively engage with the events, ask questions, and connect with the vibrant global community presented here. Together, we can redefine the future of education and create pathways for collaboration that extend far beyond these 4 days. Thank you for being part of this journey. Let us embark on an inspiring week of discovery, dialogue, and connection. Welcome to International Week UNE 2024. Bienvenidos, welcome, and bienvenue. Thank you, Axel.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for the welcome remarks. Now, we will transition to our first session of International Education Week UNE 2024. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to International Education Week UNE 2024. Every November, International Education Week is celebrated across the United States to promote global learning, exchange, and cross-cultural understanding. This initiative, led by the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education, underscores the transformative power of international education, language acquisition, and student exchange. This year, we're thrilled to bring the celebration to Tampico, Mexico, here at Universidad del Noreste. Over the next 4 days, from November 19 to November 22, we'll dive into the latest trends and opportunities in international education. This event is more than just a conference. It is a space to connect with educators, students, and professionals from around the world, sharing meaningful discussions and ideas to foster global perspectives. Be sure to register to receive your certificate of attendance and take full advantage of this inspiring week. Together, let's embrace the vision of global learning. Now, to kick off this extraordinary event, it is my great honor to introduce our first session and our incredible speaker. Candice Cole brings 15 years of experience working with educational institutions and nonprofit organizations to create lasting impact. With degrees in psychology and teaching from the University of Chicago, Candice began her career in education as a teacher. Over time, her journey evolved as she transferred her teaching skills to various sectors, becoming a highly sought-after facilitator and consultant. She is the author of The Joyful Woman's Guide to Self-Care, a book that beautifully explores the intersection of joy, creativity, and wellness in the lives of busy people. Today, Candice serves as the executive director of Narrative 4, a global nonprofit that empowers young people to use storytelling to foster empathy and inspire action. In this session, Candice will share her unique perspective on centering joy as driving force for innovating and leadership. Through her story and insights, she'll challenge us to think differently about how joy can transform our daily practices and enhance our leadership journeys. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Candice Cole.
Thank you so much, Axel. Thank you, Kim, and thank you to the university. I really am so excited to be here and talking with you all. So this is really a conversation. I'm really honored to be here, not just to share, but also to learn. I am a forever student, and that is probably one of the biggest reasons why I've been a successful leader is that I'm always willing to learn. So I'm excited to learn from you. So as you're hearing things, as you're thinking about things, please put them in the chat. I am able to see in the comments. And please share. So one thing for me that is deeply important in leadership is to actually center self-care and well-being. And so I'm going to actually just invite you in right now to take a moment of self-care. I know that we have been doing a lot today. It is the end of the day for some of you, maybe the beginning of the day. And so I always want to center self-care in this moment. So right now, I just encourage you just to find a comfortable spot and just right where you are, just breathe in and then breathe out. Breathe in one more time and then breathe out. And then this time when you breathe in, hold that breath for a few seconds. So breathe in and hold it and then breathe out and just sit for a few seconds. And so as you're sitting in this space, we're just going to ground in some things that you're seeing and hearing and feeling. So just take a minute right now just to look around and just in your mind, just think about 5 things that you can see. And so just take a look around the room or wherever you are and just take a note of that. And then next, I want you to reach your hand out and feel 4 things around you. So just reach your hand out and touch 4 things that are around you. Now, you may have to close your eyes for this. I want you to hear. So we're gonna tap into our hearing. 3 things that you can hear where you are. And now this next one is 2 things that you can smell. So what are 2 things that you can smell where you are? And then the very last thing that I want you to do is to think about 1 thing that you appreciate about yourself. And then as you think about that thing that you appreciate about yourself, just take another deep breath in and then breathe out. And tell me in the comments, how are you feeling now in this moment after just taking this little small well-being moment? Oh, someone said, like, I received a warm hug. Yes, that's great. That's how it should feel. That's how it should feel, free. Yes, 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 yes. Relaxing. Exactly. Thank you all for sharing. Keep sharing those things. So, one thing that has deeply, deeply, deeply centered my work as a leader has been just this, to find these moments of well-being. Because if we can operate from a relaxed space, we do better work. So when a lot of people ask me, like, how do you get so much done? It is because of moments like this. And when we work from a relaxed space and from a place of ease and from a free place and from a peaceful place, we really do great work. And so that is really going to be a theme of everything that I talk about, because so much of my joy has come from centering my well-being, which is so, so important. So I just love hearing people say they feel present, that they feel calm, because as a leader, that is what's most important. So one thing that I just want to lift up in my work, and a quote that grounds me, is this quote by Craig Lounsbrough, which says, "We forget that without inches, we never have miles. Therefore, work towards the miles, but celebrate the inches." And so the reason why I love this quote is because what I've come to realize is that, you know, it's a long road. Whether you're getting a degree, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're working, but there's all these tiny little small things that you do day to day that you can celebrate. And so much of when I say lead with joy is about how can you celebrate those small moments, because it is so easy to be hard on yourself. It's so easy to say you're not doing enough. It's so easy to look at what you need to do. And so for me, something that keeps me inspired when times get really hard is to always celebrate the small steps. And so as we're going through, as I'm talking, and I'll have some time for you to reflect, I want you to really think about, how can you celebrate yourself? How can you celebrate the small things that you're doing to get to whatever your big thing is, whether that is a job or a diploma or something else that's really important to you. But this is a quote that really grounds me in my work of, we cannot take a long journey or do something big without breaking it up into very small steps. And so with that, I'm going to just share a bit of my story. Because how I got here it's a story, y'all. So in the middle of this slide, you will see a picture of me as a young graduate. I had just gotten my degree in psychology from the University of Chicago. I had plans, you all, like I knew what I wanted to do. I was going to go into an education program to become a teacher, and I had it all figured out. And I knew, I mean, I had my 20-year plan, and I'm sure there are some people on this stream who feel that same way. And little did I know that my journey was going to be very, very windy and that my journey was going to be very unexpected. But here's the one thing that I'll say before I share some specific things about how I got to where I was, is that nothing was wasted. Like nothing in my experience was wasted. And so as I'm sharing my story, what I want you to think about is no part of your story is wasted. So even as you maybe make mistakes, even as you maybe have failure, nothing is wasted, because who I am today and the leader that I am today is because of all of these experiences. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of my story. It's not very linear, as you'll see, but let's start with me graduating and becoming a teacher. So I became a teacher. I taught in California. I taught in Chicago. And I thought that I was going to be teaching, honestly, forever in the classroom. And so I had I was set on, I was going to teach for a little bit of time, become a principal of a school, and like I had it figured out. As I was in my third or fourth year of teaching, I started to burn out. I wasn't taking really good care of myself. I had a really hard time with some mental health issues and some mental health struggles. And so this thing that I had used to really love, teaching, I wasn't loving it so much as I was before. And so I decided to take a leap, and I decided to take a year away from teaching. And if you look at this picture up here with me and this dog, I actually decided to become an assistant to an author. Like I found the ad because I had to make money, and I took a few different part-time jobs because I really needed to take some time and space to really figure some stuff out. And so while I was here, I started to get some ideas. I started to get reinvigorated. I started to get some ideas about my work, which I'll share later. And that led me to an amazing organization called Narrative 4. And I will share that story a little bit later because it's a much longer story. But then I started to see that my teaching skills, I could use them in different fields. And I worked with Narrative 4 for a little bit. I started my own business. If you look at the picture above with the Be Good Foundation, I was awarded a grant last year with Beyonce's foundation, the Be Good Foundation, for my work in wellness. And so I went on this journey for 15 years, and that led me here to Narrative 4. And I'm also a mother, I'm married, and there was a lot of things. And then COVID happened. So basically, what I would tell that very young woman who had just graduated, I would tell her to expect the unexpected and be okay with that. And there became a point where I really embraced that. But I share all this to say that even if you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, even if you know exactly what you're going to be doing, there might be something bigger. There might be something different. There might be something even more exciting that you didn't realize. And so let my story really be a testament of that, that this journey that we're all on, that no part of your story is wasted. I went through a period where I felt like, man, I really failed. Because I had some failures, y'all. I had some failures. I failed in my business. I failed as a teacher. Like I had a lot of failures. But what I realized is that I learned from those failures. And so nothing is wasted. So if you're thinking like, hey, I'm going through a challenge, I'm not sure how that's going to impact my future, it will. You may not know it now, but it will. And so what I really want to talk about with you all today is this idea of how, like, what are the core things, the key things that you need to really embrace this joyful leadership? And so a lot of times when we think leader, we don't put joy together. I mean, a lot of times there's this idea that being a leader or taking on leadership, that it's hard and it's challenging, which it is. But there's also this area of leadership where you really get to define it. And so I'm going to talk with you about 4 things that I really anchor in that help me to define who I am as a leader so that I lead with joy. And what I found is that the more I stick to these things, the better leader I become. And so I always say, look at the outcome, right? And so the more that I am relaxed, like we talked about earlier, the more joy that I have, the more peace that I am a better leader. I get more done. I am more innovative. And so this has really been over the past 2 decades, things that I have done that I'm so excited to share just a little bit with you. And so as we're going through this, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to pause for a little bit so that you have time to maybe reflect or write down things. So if you have something to write with or even draw with, I know some of us process in that way where we kind of draw things, like really, really take this time to really reflect and process. Like I said, it's a keynote, but it's really a conversation. We are having a conversation. Please type in the chat. We'll have Q&A later, but if you have questions in the moment, please ask them. Or if you're just wondering things, or if something is making you excited, please share that in the chat so that the rest of the group can see. So let's get into what are the 4 things that you really, really, really need to embrace in your leadership journey. And the one thing I just want to also say is we are all leaders. And so before I had this role as a global leader, I was leading. And so one thing that I really want you to remember is that you are a leader right now where you are. You are a leader right now where you are. You are leading in some way, shape, or form. And this is really about how do you continue to do things to grow in your leadership in a way that feels right for you. Because for me, the biggest thing is being authentic, being yourself, and enjoying what you do. And so that's really what this is about, because this allows us to connect. It allows us to do great work. And I'm so grateful to be working with the organization like Near to 4 that allows me to connect globally, because it brings me a profound sense of joy. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to Near to 4, because it required me to really stretch myself in a way that I hadn't thought about. So the first thing that is really, really important to being a leader, a joyful leader, is to embrace creativity. Creativity for me, by far, is one of the biggest values that I have. Creativity is a capacity that all of us have. We all have so much creativity. It is not just for artists or singers or celebrities. It is something that we all have. It is something that we can all nurture. And really, for me, creativity shows us that there are so many ways to do something. It shows us that we have no limits. And when we cultivate our creativity, we find solutions to problems that we would have never, ever expected. And so for me, when I left teaching, I went through a phase where I didn't think I could apply I'm like, what job can I do outside of the classroom? And as I started to learn and grow, I started to see how my skills could translate into different areas. And it required me to really get creative about how I could take my love for bringing people together as an educator with little people, because I taught 7 and 8-year-olds, and how could I do that with adults? And so I became a really great facilitator because of the teaching that I did with very young people. I learned how to plan workshops and other things for all types of organizations because of my experience as a teacher. And so creativity really asks us to think about and look at things in different ways. But here's the thing, y'all. You cannot just wake up and say, okay, let me get creative. You have to practice it. So if we exercise, right? Like we exercise, that works our muscles. Creativity is like a muscle. And so you have to really work the creativity. And so when I say embrace creativity, it's really about what are we doing every day to cultivate or practice our creativity? Because if you don't, it'll become harder and harder for you to be creative. And there's a ton of different ways that you can embrace creativity. It could be something as simple as walking or driving a different way to work or school than you normally do. It could be drawing while you're listening to a song, drawing and coloring how you feel. It could be playing, like literally playing a game, like playing something that you love to do as a child. So how are we embracing creativity? So we're actually going to do that right now. We're going to cultivate a little bit of creativity. And this is what I like to call creative self-care. So we're going to do two different things. And so the first thing that I want you to do, and this is something that you can just do on your own. And actually, I'll actually take out something. I'm actually going to take this because I'm going to do this in real time. So I have this cup, and we know this as a cup, right? And so I want you all to put in the chat, what is something else that this could possibly be? So we know this as a plastic cup, but what are some other ways that we could use this cup, or what else could we turn this cup into if we get creative? So I'm going to give everyone just a few seconds and then wait, because I know it takes a little minute for the comments to come in. So what is something else that we could do with this cup? So this is one thing that we do with creativity, is that we look at something in its current form, and then we think about what are different ways we can use it, because it allows our brain to kind of activate beyond what it knows. So what else could I use this cup for? Or what else could this be? What else do you imagine this to be? So it's a cup right now. Oh, so Valeria said you turn it into a speaker. Oh, a flower pot. Yes. This is so good. What else? Let's take two more. Let's get two more folks. So we have a speaker and a flower pot. What else? What else could we do with this cup? Samantha said a cute little hat. Yes, it could be a cute little hat. A funnel. Yes, a funnel. Awesome. Keep them coming in. So this is one way that you can practice your creativity. Oh, a telephone with strings. Yes, I used to play that as a kid, the telephone with the strings, right? So this is one thing that you can do, is that you can look at an object and try to think of a ton of different ways that you can, that can be used differently. Now, here's another fun thing that I like to do. We call this activity Imaginary Lives. So I want you to take a minute, and I want you to think of, if you could do whatever you want. So this is not about reality. This is if you could do whatever you want. What is one or two jobs that you would love to do? Like, if money wasn't an option, if it didn't matter, if you were talented. And so I'll tell you all mine. Two of my imaginary lives are to be a race car driver and to be a DJ. So what are one or two jobs that you would want to do if it didn't matter? And remember, these are imaginary lives, y'all. So we're not like, I will not probably be a race car driver, right? Or a DJ, but it really starts to activate your brain, and it's just something fun to do. So if you could be or do anything in the world, what would you do? There are no wrong answers. So take a minute to think about that. Like I said, mine are, I would be a race car driver, I would be a DJ. Those are my two imaginary lives. What are two imaginary lives that you would lead if you could? Oh, Samantha says run a children's camp or be a cool girl drummer. Yes, I see that. I love that. Who else has something? If it didn't matter, it doesn't matter. This is just, we're just imagining. Ooh, a stationery store. And then you get to see what other people are thinking and doing, which is very inspiring. Ooh, a homesteader or an explorer, a dancer, and also a car driver. This is great. Let's see if there's one more that comes through. I love all these ideas. So this imaginary lives, you can do this. I like to do this like once a month, where you just imagine. So imagination, I want to be an engineer on systems. Yes. So an imagination is something that we don't have to not have, wait until we think we outgrow it. We don't outgrow it. Right. And so imaginary lives allows you to be in that space. Oh, a paleontologist. Yes, I love that. And what I would encourage you to do too, as you embrace creativity, is actually maybe do something that's related to your imaginary life. So for instance, if you want to be a paleontologist, you may watch a YouTube video about paleontology. Right. So this also is just another way of how you embrace creativity, but it really, really brings you a lot of joy. So like I said, I want to be a DJ. I will probably never be a professional DJ, like the big time DJs, but I do like to watch DJs doing their work. So I will watch YouTube videos every once in a while. I'll try to mix one or two songs. So what this does though, is that one is fun. But then 2, it keeps you on a creative edge. We have museum guys, a bartender at a restaurant, a freelancer, a coffee shop. This is really, really amazing. So thank y'all for sharing. But this is how we embrace creativity. And so as you're thinking about things in your life, the question that I always ask myself is, how many other ways can I do this? How many other ways can I think about this? And things like what we're doing with the What Is This Cup or the Imaginary Lives, they help you to practice that. And what's so cool is that tomorrow, one of my colleagues, Felice Bell, she will be keynoting and she'll be diving deep into creativity. So I'm going to move on to my next point because Felice is going to give you all so much good stuff around creativity in your leadership. So I know you're going to be in good hands tomorrow, but that's the first thing for me, is embracing creativity. The next thing is something called micro movements. So I talked earlier about how I break up everything that I do, and things that have made it very, very, very easy for me to be a joyful leader has been taking something really big and breaking it up into small bites. One thing that I always tell people is you have to love the time you have. And so oftentimes we say, well, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more hours. I wish I had more minutes. And for me, I always ask myself, what can I do in this time? So if I have 5 minutes to work on something, let me take this 5 minutes. If I only have 1 minute, let me take this 1 minute. And so I've gotten really good. If you are ever around me, I have lots of notebooks and lots of notepads, but I break down steps to really, really, really small steps. So let me give you an example of this. I was planning a big trip, like a really big trip. It was a lot of things that I had to plan for me and my family, and I was getting overwhelmed by it. And so I said, you know what? The very first step that I'm going to take is simply just to block it out of my calendar. I'm going to put it in my calendar so that here are the dates. The second step that I'm going to do is look up 3 Airbnbs that we can stay at. The next step I'm going to look up is choosing one of those Airbnbs. And so micro movement says take very small steps and keep taking those small steps so that you avoid overwhelm. Or when you do get overwhelmed, it helps you so that you can find your way. And so one thing that I'll say is that as leaders, especially as you're going into leadership, as you're thinking about that, it is very easy to try to take big, huge chunks, big, huge steps, and then we get overwhelmed and we burnt out. But I have found that micro movements, as I call them, are really tiny steps. They help me to stay focused and they give me something to celebrate. So you also heard that quote earlier about celebration. I love a good celebration. And so I celebrate every small little step. Every small step. I really do mean this. Sometimes if I've had a really hard week, an incredibly tough week, sometimes the thing that I'm celebrating is simply getting in bed at a certain time or getting up and taking a shower. I mean, you can literally celebrate yourself at any moment because we have enough of beating ourselves up or of thinking we're not doing enough. And so micro movements really help you to see all of the things that you're doing towards your goal. So Samantha asks, how do you celebrate? This is a great question, Samantha. Sometimes a celebration is sometimes just me saying I did a good job. I'll be like, good job, Candace. I will say it. Other times I'll put on some music and I'll dance. I like to just put on some music and dance to celebrate. Other times, if it's something maybe I took a series of steps and I really I did that, I'll go and treat myself to a special treat or coffee. Other times I'll rest. I'll take a nap as a celebration. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to celebrate. But at the most basic level, I will literally put my hand over my heart and say Candace, you're doing a good job. So at the very least, because remember, we don't make this complicated, because I know some people will start to get they'll be like, well, how do I celebrate? The most basic thing that you can do sometimes just take a breath and go, I did that. and literally say that. So that's how I celebrate. I love sweets and coffee. And tea. So anything around that, I will treat myself. Sometimes I will buy myself, some tea at the grocery store, a tea that I haven't bought before. And so you can really celebrate anyway. And now if it's something bigger, right, you can figure out something bigger. But I find that I like small things, right? Small steps, small things to celebrate, because sometimes we wait. Yeah, I can't always wait for that bigger thing. Like I can be impatient. So this allows me to do that. Another thing that you might do as a celebration is there you may have a friend of yours. If and when you hit your step, you may tell your friend like, hey, when I do this, I want you to send me some compliments. And so sometimes I have friends who will then send me like either a voice note or notes of like, wow, you really did a good job. So you can also have other people help you celebrate. And it's really cool too, because they often see things that you didn't see as you were working towards the thing that you were working towards. So you can have people hold you accountable to celebrating. I often do not celebrate myself, and my friends know that. And so instead of them holding me to getting things done, they will ask me like, how have you celebrated yourself this week? Have you noticed the dope things that you've done? Have you said thank you to yourself? Have you celebrated yourself? So also have people in your life who hold you to celebrating yourself, not just who hold you to getting things done, but who hold you to celebrating yourself, because that it also brings joy. So small steps, and celebrate those small steps, because really that's not when we get things done. So a lot of people always ask me, like, what's your secret? You're a global leader. How do you get it done? A series of very small steps that I don't stop taking. Right. And then celebrating those small steps. And like, literally, that really is it. Like, yes, there's other things. Right. But there's a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot that I had to learn. And it came with just saying, okay, what can I do now? What can I learn now? What's the next step? So do not underestimate those small steps, and make sure that you're celebrating those small steps, because it also creates a positive association in your brain that as you celebrate it, you want to keep going. You want to do it. You want to keep doing more and more and more. So that's the second thing, you all, micro movements. The third thing is really, really, really embracing transformational relationships. I cannot say enough to you all how this is probably one of the most important things. One, it brings joy because it's joyful to connect with people. But the bigger thing is that relationships literally transform your journey in ways that you couldn't imagine. So I'm actually going to share a story of how I got to Narrative 4 because of relationships. So remember that picture that I had where I was holding that dog? So I had burnt out. I had left the classroom and I was working a part-time job because I still have bills to pay. And I was working for an author, and she wrote books, and she was a lawyer. And so I was helping her with her bookkeeping. I was helping her like check her emails. I was an assistant for her, and I would come to her home and do work that she needed. And so this particular author, she said she had a friend that she wanted me to meet. And she was like, I have this friend in education who has a nonprofit. Like, I really think that y'all would just like each other. Like, y'all need to meet. And so I said, okay, cool, we should meet. And so it took about 2 months, but then her friend finally came into town because her friend traveled a lot. I met her friend, and her friend was Lisa Consiglio, who is the co-founder and CEO of Narrative 4. And so she had just started Narrative 4. It was a small organization. It was just her. And she was like, can you help me? Like, I just need some help. Can you help me set some things up? Can you help me with paperwork? Can you help me send some emails? Because it was just her and this vision. And so I said yes. And I started working with her. I was one of the first employees at Narrative 4. And over the course of 10 years, I did a lot of different jobs with Narrative 4. I was a program manager. I was an operations manager. At one point, though, in 2015, I decided that I wanted to, or 2016, I decided I wanted to start my own business. So I left Narrative 4 as an employee, started my business as a consultant, and Narrative 4 actually became a client of mine. So I got to work with Narrative 4 on smaller projects. And so no matter what I did, I always made it a point to check in with Lisa, to see how she was doing. Like, sometimes I would literally just message her and say, like, I'm just thinking of you. Like, I hope that you're doing well. And so over the course of 10 years, we had this really strong relationship. And she was someone who I didn't just see her as a co-founder of organization, but I saw her as a human being. And it was a relationship that was important to me. So 3 years ago, because we're in a relationship, she texts me and says, hey, I have some work. Can you consult with us on some work with our colleges and universities? So I came, I did a small project. And then after I did that project, she was like, can you come and facilitate our retreat? She's like, because, you're an amazing facilitator. Do you want to do that? I said yes again. And then at that retreat, she asked me if I wanted to come back and work full time for Narrative 4 as the director of employee experience and engagement. I said yes. And as a result of diving in and doing that work, in March, I was named executive director of Narrative 4. So I say all of that to say that if I had not said yes to a new relationship back in 2013, I would not be sitting here in front of you as executive director of this amazing global organization. I also say this because the relationship that I had with Lisa was so important beyond any work that we did. And so one thing that I will say has unequivocally made me a great leader is my relationships. And so when you start to get to know people, even if you don't know, even if you don't think they can help you, even if you don't know how they can help you, we don't know the future. And so it is really important to embrace relationships. Yes, Kyle, the story of yes, to embrace relationships, but also to water those relationships. So not to just talk to people when you need something, but to really check in on people. I'm a firm believer. Nothing brings me more joy than being in community with people. Nothing brings me more joy than knowing that my people are all right. Nothing brings me more joy than checking in on people to know how they're doing, how they're feeling. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It does not take a lot of time. Like I will send a quick 10-second voice memo to someone just to say, I'm thinking of you. And so in this way, one, you get a lot of joy from being in relationships, but also the relationships that you have, if you water them, they will grow, and they might grow in ways that you never expected. I never, ever, 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 when I tell you I never expected that 10 years ago that I would be executive director of this organization, if you would have told me, I would not have believed you. But I do know that the reason how I got to this point was because of relationships, because they mean a lot to me. So if you don't hear anything that I've talked about today, please hear this. Relationships and building relationships, especially with people who are different from you, who do things different from you, who are interesting, right? Who make you want to be curious. Take time to water those relationships. Sometimes, I put reminders in my phone, in my calendar, just to check on people. If you look at my calendar, you'll see lots of blocks of like checking on this person, message this person, because I do forget, but these people are important to me. And so when we think about being a joyful leader, nothing brings me more joy than connecting and community building. So this is a big one, you all. Like, as you start to have relationships with folks, like, water those relationships, take that time. Is so important. And for me, it has literally been the reason why I'm able to do things that I do. So the very last thing before we get into Q&A is to focus on your strengths. Focus on your strengths. A lot of times we try to focus on our weaknesses. And yes, we have to focus on weaknesses, but you have to focus on your strengths, because sometimes we are so focused on our weaknesses that we don't focus on our strengths. So I'm gonna give y'all another story about this. When I was in elementary school, kindergarten, first, second grade, it should come as no surprise now because I'm here talking to y'all. I could not stop talking. Like, I was the kid that no matter where you put me in a room, I would talk. I would talk to a wall if I just would not stop talking. And so on my report card, and I can show y'all these report cards. I had a minus for talks at the right time. I wouldn't stop talking. And so I got in trouble for it a lot. And people like, you stop talking. And I just wouldn't stop talking. But what happened is I went through a period once I got into middle school where I heard that so much and no one helped me to see it as a strength that I just stopped talking. And I became very quiet. I didn't talk. I didn't share. And it wasn't until college that I kind of found my voice again. And I always think about and wonder if someone had said, okay, she likes to talk. how can we help her to use that skill? How can we strengthen that skill instead of telling me to suppress it or to stop it? I wonder how much more of a speaker I would have been, right? Like now I'm speaking all the time. It's a part of my work, but I always do wonder, like, what ideas that I maybe have in high school that I maybe could have shared or could have contributed that I didn't. So focus on your strengths. And really focus on making your strengths stronger. We talk, like I said, we often talk a lot about how to focus on your weaknesses, but strengthen what you're good at, right? So if someone would have told me, okay, Candace, you talk at an inappropriate time, so we need to stop talking to everybody, but like maybe you should go into debate club. Maybe we can let you do presentations, right? Like there is this idea of focusing on your strengths. And then what also starts to happen is you start to strengthen your weaknesses using your strengths. So it's so much more joy-filled to focus on your strengths. So as you think about what you're really, really, really good at, right? Think about, how do I make that better? Right? How do I make this thing that I'm good at even better? And I guarantee you that is going to be the unique thing that you bring to the world. So 7-year-old Candace was told to stop talking, but thank goodness I found my voice again, because literally I work in an organization that is about storytelling and using storytelling to connect, and using storytelling to, bridge divides, and using storytelling to take positive action. So you never know what your strength is going to lead you to. So when you focus on making your strengths stronger, you also set yourself up as you're meeting people, as you're building those relationships, right? For people to really see you and then to help connect you to opportunity. Because so many of the opportunities that I have that I have been blessed to have been because people have seen my strengths. And they have said, we really, really we appreciate your strength. We embrace your strength. And find folks around you who appreciate what you're good at. Oftentimes we go to spaces and places that just tolerate our strengths. So like when I was younger, they didn't like me talking. Now I'm in spaces and places where people love having me talk. So find people who celebrate what you're good at and help you to get better and better and better at it. And so, the big thing that I want you all to think about before we get to Q&A is to really reflect. So please take a screenshot of these questions. And I really want you to take sometime this week, schedule like 20-30 minutes. And I want you to reflect on these things. How do you want to feel as a leader, right? Because remember, you are a leader. How do you want to feel as a leader? How do you want others to feel when you're leading them? And even if you're like, Candace, I don't have a leadership position yet, you start thinking about it now. The second thing is, how are you going to cultivate creativity in your personal and professional life? So what things are you going to do to really make sure that you're keeping your creativity front row and center? I do hope that one of those things will be to go to Felice Bell's talk tomorrow. So there's already one thing that you can do with that. And then the third thing is, what is the next small step you can take in your leadership journey? So what's the next tiny step that you can take in your leadership journey? And the one thing that I will say in closing before we get to a few questions is this: there is joy in your path. There is joy in the challenges. And so really make sure that as you celebrate and take those small steps, even as you go through challenges, remember that joy is a way that you can measure your leadership. And I assure you that if you center that joy and you reflect on these questions, you will connect to opportunities that you never thought possible, because you're activating and thinking and meeting new people and growing. So please keep doing that. Keep coming to things like this. Keep engaging, keep connecting, and keep sharing your unique story, because I assure you that it will be a big, big part of your leadership journey. Because like I said before, nothing is wasted. So thank you all so much for giving me some time to chat and for just being participating and bringing your energy to the chat. But I can open it up for questions now.
Thank you so much, Candice, for such an inspiring and thought-provoking session. You have given us so much to reflect on, and I'm sure many of us are already thinking about how we can bring more joy into our own leadership journeys. Now, we would like to open the floor to questions from the audience. This is a great opportunity to dive deeper into Candice's insights and hear her perspective on any specific ideas or challenges you might be curious about.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm just reading a few of these comments about relationships being so important. So yes, relationships are extremely important. Any questions? Okay, so Samantha has a question. So she said, do you have any mindset suggestions to keep your spirits up in difficult times? So one thing I want to just remind people and anchor in is that there will be challenging times. So thank you, Samantha, for lifting this up. So there will be challenging times and difficult times. We're human. There is no way to get out of that. So two things that I tell myself when I'm having a difficult situation is this. The first thing is, this will not last forever. And that really keeps me grounded, because I'm the type of person that when I'm in the thick of a difficult situation, it feels like it's never ending. Like in my brain, so I tell myself like, okay, this will not last forever. One. So that is one thing I tell myself, because you need to remind your brain that though you're in the thick of it, like this is finite. It's, on the long, timeline of my life, this will not last forever. And then the other thing that I really, really, really lean into from a mindset perspective is I can take a small step. Because when you're in a difficult situation, depending on the situation, it can be hard to take a lot of steps, because there might be some things that are preventing you. And so I always think like, what is the next best thing that I can do right now? Yes, and someone put drink water and breathe, like literally. And sometimes the breathing is the thing that I can do. So I always remind myself that this is not going to last forever. And in this moment, just like we did at the beginning of with the well-being moment, that I can give myself something right now. And that helps me to stay anchored, because sometimes you don't know how something's going to end. You don't know how a difficult situation is going to be, but knowing that it won't last forever is something that you can hold on to. And then taking that breath and breathing, it helps me. Also, a third thing I tell myself is I'm strong. Because there's a tendency when you are going through a difficult situation, you don't feel very strong, but you probably are stronger than you are giving yourself credit for. So I always remind myself that I'm very, very, very strong. So that's one thing that I do with mindset. Another question we have is, how do you compare your vision of leadership to other leadership models out there? I would say that my model of leadership is really feelings based, which is not something that is talked a lot about when you look at leadership models. And I love other leadership models. So I think for me, it is, how do I really integrate my feelings and emotional landscape into some of those models? I think that's what makes mine different, is that I see my feelings and emotions as a guide. And so that helps me to know that I'm working in alignment. It helps me to know that I'm doing the work that I need to do. And when I'm feeling uncomfortable emotions, it helps me know that I need to change something. So I don't just sit in the uncomfortable emotion. I feel it, but then it gives me, it puts me on alert. And so I think that for me as a leader, that's my biggest thing, because we all have emotions. We all have feelings. And so I decide to really lean in and learn myself, so that I can be a better leader, and so that I can move through discomfort without harming folks. So that's how my leadership model is a little bit different. And I do center joy. Like, we have like metrics and KPIs and outcomes. Joy is the outcome for me, because if I'm not feeling joyful in my work, that means I need to shift something. So someone said, from your own experience, what's been the most transformative part of focusing on strengths in your own life and career? It's helped me to, really, honestly, it has helped me to avoid things that I thought I should be doing. Because you might be good at a lot of things, but your strengths, that's really where your genius lies. And so it has helped me to actually find jobs and experiences that really, really inspire me. Versus if I focus less on my strengths, I'm going towards things that I could do that don't necessarily bring me joy and fill me up. So it's been transformative in that it's exposed me to experiences that I didn't know were possible for me. And it's helped me to see that I can meet moments with my experience in new ways and in different ways. And so that has allowed me to travel and to meet people who I never, ever would have thought I would have met. So that's a big one for me. That's been the most transformative part of focusing on strengths, is that when you focus on your strengths and people see them and you build relationships, people start to connect you to things, right? And they connect you to things that you maybe didn't expect. Like I said, I didn't expect I was going to be executive director, but Lisa saw that in me because I was focusing on my strengths. And so now I'm like, this is great. I really do love this job. So it also has been transformative because oftentimes if you're focusing on your strengths, people will see that and they may see an opportunity that you don't see. And so it's really great for you because now they're matching you with things that really, really, really fit who you are. Another question is, what are your must-have characteristics of a leader? There's so many, but the two things that I would really say for me are like a must-have of leaders is that you have to care about people. Deeply, deeply care about people. You have to care about people. Like, you cannot lead anything without deeply caring about people. I think another thing as a leader for me is admitting when I don't know something and asking for help. That is a must-have because a lot of times leaders do not ask for help and then we get into trouble because we're trying to figure something out. So listening, being a good listener, especially when you don't know, is another one. I'm gonna try to answer two more questions because there's a few, but I'm actually gonna answer the last one. What was the hardest challenge for you in life? The hardest challenge for me in life was actually when I left, when I was an entrepreneur. I opened up a consultancy. I started a business the first time and I failed miserably, like had no money, and had to really build everything from scratch. Me and my husband had to end up living with a family member because we couldn't pay rent. Like, it was a challenging time. We were both entrepreneurs. And it was so challenging, not just because of the money, but because you're doing something and it was a failure. And so both of those things were hard at the same time. And so the one thing that we did was, what can we do? Like, what is the next thing we can do? And so I took some part-time jobs. I kind of tried to get my mind back together. And the second time I started my business, it took about 2 years for me to start it again. But I knew more. And so while that was a really challenging time because there was so much uncertainty, I was stronger for it because I learned so much. So that was a time for me that was just really hard, really challenging because also at that time, during that same time where my business failed and all that stuff, I was pregnant. And so me and my husband are navigating all of that, all those challenges, plus first child coming in. And so thank goodness we have family to support, but it was a really hard, challenging time. And that's when I had to really do that micro steps. Because days were very hard, so I could only do the next best thing. But I learned from the failure, so that was the most important part. Let's see. Oh, this one says, what challenges have you encountered with the old tendencies of leadership and this new focus on well-being? I'll go up to Carla's question. That's a good one. I mean, one challenge that I have encountered is that people tend to think that productivity means overworking. And I don't. And so sometimes it's hard for people to understand that. But once I show the work that I've done as a result, people get that. But that's a tendency. People think that overwork equals productivity or busyness equals productivity, which it doesn't. So that's been one. Also, this idea that leadership can be joyful, right? It's something that you can actually find joy from. A lot of people will even other leaders I know will complain about it. And so that's been something that I have to kind of just remind people, like, there's a new way that you can think about it. And then the last one that has been different for people is that for me, when I measure how successful of a leader I am, while I measure like things that my organization does, I also measure how I feel. Like, that's a measurement for me. So I would say that's been less challenging and more so about helping people to see a new way. So that's kind of how I frame it. Like, it's challenging because we're doing something different, but creativity asks us to do that. And so it's been cool to actually have people see, like, oh, you're leading a very successful organization and you're prioritizing these things. So that would be my answer to that. But thank y'all so much. I would love to keep answering questions, but I know we're up for time. But thank you all so much. Please get in contact with me. I'll put my email in if you want to ask more questions, because I definitely want to answer them.
Okay, thank you everyone who joined us for this insightful and engaging first session of International Education Week, UNE 2024. A special thanks to Candice Cole for sharing her expertise and perspectives, as well as to all of you for your active participation. Your questions, comments, and enthusiasm truly enrich the discussion and make this event a collaborative learning experience. This is just the beginning. We have many more sessions and activities planned throughout the week. So be sure to check the event schedule and join us for the next session. Thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night. Wherever you may be in the world, see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.